Carl and Damon here from Games, Brains and Head-Banging Life, gbhblofficial for short, and as they made what into a TV series. Shenmue the animation! Talk through and review. It's episode 6, Dignified. So, kind of halfway through because it's 13 episodes. There is technically no halfway point. Like, 6.5 is a halfway point. So, halfway through this episode, we get to the halfway point of the show.
Yep.
It's Shenmue 2 time! Da, da, da. The episode begins with Ryo arriving in Hong Kong and thinking about everything he's been through to this point. So, kind of a brief recap. And just like the game, upon arrival, he almost gets run over by a girl on a motorcycle. This is Joy. Of course, Joy is a fairly important character from the game, and she gives some advice about thieves and then rides off. And we're really off and rolling because things go quickly wrong for Rio. A kid runs up to him begging for help because some punks are going to kill him. However, this is a setup and Rio gets robbed. His bag gets stolen. He tries to give chase, but they end up getting away. This is Hong Kong. There we go.
Yeah. Nope. See, Rio done it. Rio made a mistake. The first thing you do before you get to that point is you spend all your goddamn money first because you don't get that bastard back. So you buy your lighters, you pay all the games, buy all the toys, then get robbed.
Yeah, I was very disappointed to see Rio not step off the boat immediately and start arm wrestling. Because that's what I fucking to me. Forget the killers. Come on, you know. But yeah, so basically the police can't help. He goes to them, but in a shift from the game, he didn't actually lose his money and valuables. They're in his pocket. They're in his bag in the game, not in this. Because of course you have to have taken a job of carrying crate boxes and stuff like that.
I hate that. That's the one thing about Shenmue 2 is that from the great forklift job to this crappy carrying and the geezer keep going left, right, but in the Mandarin language, it's so goddamn annoying.
Yeah, there was obviously an attempt to replicate that. However, I just want to jump in and say there was nothing great. Your nostalgia blinds you. The forklift job was dull and boring, and it was a means to an end. You just got nostalgic memories for it because when we were playing it back in the 90s, the early 2000s,
Mm.
you were like, oh, I'm spending my days in this game completing a job. Now, yeah,
Yeah.
horrible. Goes on too long. And even the races are so easy to get boring.
I mean, I do enjoy the part-time jobs where you got even though they're fucking impossible to win, we got to drop the little bloody balls in the
Oh,
circles
yeah,
and
yeah,
get.
yeah, yeah. The mini games. Yeah, yeah. Anyway, so Rio tries to find a place to stay, but every hotel he tries is full. But he ends up changing tack to look for because he's basically running out of props. He's like, okay, let me look for Chen's friend, who is called Lishao Teo.
Yeah.
But he ends up coming across an old man in a park practicing Tai Chi. This is a huge jump. I was like, whoa, whoa!
Mm.
Like I was baffled because I'm like, hold on a second here. This is episode 6 of 13. Slow down. Now, I'm going to jump ahead here. This is a major flaw in this series. This is such a jump that later on we will have to jam the brakes on so heavily that there's an episode that I will argue is so fucking slow and dull, like, because of this.
Mm.
Anyway, this is the character of Jinmin, who tells basically, you can tell Rio is a martial arts artist, and look, he wants to fight. Unsurprisingly, like every character that Rio meets, Rio loses. Like, he loses. This gets annoying. It was annoying in the game, and it was annoying here. That every character, basically, that Rio meets is automatically better than him until Rio learns a thing that makes him better than them.
I don't particularly mind it with these sort of characters because this guy's a master. So I'm okay with that, but it's the smaller characters like your standard NPCs. I get that, but
Yeah.
like the masters, I fully understand that.
Yes and no. The only thing that annoys me is that the game was obsessed with this, right? And the show was a little obsessed with this too, where it's like I'm a master, and because I've practiced all this like calm stuff, I automatically, regardless of my age, I am still fitter, faster,
Mm.
and all these things than this youngster. Like that's the only thing that always annoys me about stuff like this. It's like, okay, right, he might have more skills, but like show that from a different way. He can't surely have the same stamina or reaction speed as Rio, who is no schlum. Rio's not a fucking like a crap fighter either.
but then obviously like she had oh, I forgot, obviously the person he's after, obviously she's a female.
Yeah, Lisha Tang.
So
Yeah.
yeah,
Let's just
yeah.
make that
So
easy and
so
call her
obviously
Tail.
yeah, it's out. Yeah,
Yeah, but then this show's going to become obsessed with this whole female thing from a sexism angle, and and I'm fine with
yes,
that because the game does that as well. But it kind of
yeah.
gets stuck on that more. But the point is, what I'm saying is, I find this stuff exhausting. Do you know what I mean? Where it's just like, oh yeah, well, everyone's better than Rio. Because you remember the game had this problem as well, where
Mm.
it was so obsessed with like Landy's the greatest, Landy's the best. How the fuck am I supposed to believe that Rio could ever beat him?
Yeah, yeah.
Particularly as everybody runs into beats Rio.
True, true.
Anyway, afterwards, Jinnaman tells Rio, look, you should get to the Yanton apartments where Teo is supposed to live. But once he gets there, basically, he meets an old lady who. Now, you might. Right, this is explanation for people who thinks he's a land shark. Now, do you know what a land shark is? Do you know what it is?
To say, so one of those people like you borrow a loan from, and they
No,
come to your
no,
door to try and
not a loan shark. Yes, right. That's the confusion. Not a loan shark, a land shark. So the difference is this, right? A loan shark, you're
yeah,
absolutely right, is the whole borrow money from someone criminal, etc.,
yeah.
and usually high interest rate and stuff like that. A land shark is effectively someone who wants to buy up the land you're on. So maybe you live, and what they're doing is they're trying to pressure you using gangs sometimes, nefarious means to leave. So basically, they want to buy the land you're on, you're refusing to leave. So they're going to find a way to get you out. That's what a land shark is.
So you're telling me that you're telling me that I spent an hour wasting my time checking every one of those fucking apartments when every time they were fucking empty, and me wondering why they were fucking empty.
Yeah, yeah. There's no reason. Yes. But eventually, this woman's realised that Rio's not, because she thinks Rio, as a land shark, is there to intimidate her, to try and get her to move. But she realises he's not, and she tells him, look, you can meet Teo at Manmo Temple. And I was like, oh my God, show, slow down. Like,
Yeah,
again, in the game, you kind of have to find another route this way. Like, I don't want, I know they can't just have us wandering around, as you say, checking every apartment and stuff like that. But still,
yeah.
this is fast.
Obviously they cut the entire scene where obviously Joy leads you to the hotel, and then obviously then she tells you about the job and stuff like that. So that entire section there has been cut.
Yeah, they'll bring part of it back later, but not that part. You're absolutely right. Because
Yeah,
Rio immediately goes to Mambo Temple. He sees a woman praying and asks her about Tail, but she refuses to answer him. One of the monks approach Rio about meeting the master, and Rio shows him the letter of introduction from Chen. But apparently, that is not enough to get a meeting. The monk simply tells him to be patient and things will happen when they're supposed to. If I was Rio, I'd have kicked off here. I'd have right kicked off here. Do you know what I mean? Come on, man. What the hell? I've got this whole letter of introduction, and it turns out nobody to help me.
I get it for like obviously like for a in a master's eye perspective, but yeah, in like today's world, you'd be like, are you fucking kidding me? I've got a fucking
Yeah,
letter. You'll be
yeah,
so fucking human. You will be.
yeah. Outside, Rio runs into the praying woman again, and he asks her why she was at the temple. I don't know, Rio. Praying?
Praying.
She tells Rio that she has a wish she is praying for, but she can tell that Rio also has one that his eyes are consumed by his own desires. This is where the show does a terrible job of hiding this woman's identity. I'm 100% convinced that every single person watching the show who's never played Shenmue went, that's Tail,
Yep.
immediately from that one scene. And you know what? And that's the problem the game had as well. It makes Rio look so thick. Because I'm just like, Rio, that's clearly Tail. But I get it. They want to show that Rio's sexist, basically. This show is really going to hammer this point home. And I'm fine with that because I get it. The era he's grown up in, the fact that up to this point he's had no female figures in his life. In fact, his
Mhm.
fucking mother isn't around. Female figures who could be powerful, who could match him in any
Yep.
way as a fighter or as a person. All the women he's known have been just kind of like Nozomi and Ine-san and so on, you know?
Yeah. 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 Exactly. Yeah.
So Rio goes back to the park to get advice for Jinnaman, and he offers Rio a hint. but he'll only give him the hint if he can cover the ground with the leaves using a move called Iron Palm, which is he basically has to punch a tree until the ground is covered with leaves. Rightfully, Rio is not too happy about having to do this, and of course struggles with it, getting angry over that as well. That's from the game. There's that.
Yeah.
At least
Yeah.
in the game, it's a very cool moment. So when you finally do it.
Yeah, this is a cool moment, but the other one was not a cool moment. It was so fucking frustrating.
Yes, indeed. A cutaway shows Wong and Joy talking. Wong is upset that there was nothing valuable in Rio's bag, and Joy seems concerned about Rio. Why? This is so annoying. I was like, why would she? Like, she had one brief. Like, what?
Yeah.
What?
Yeah, so this is where they messed up a bit for me because like this scene with Wong in a bag, this happened in the game. This happened ages ago. You know, you chase
Yeah,
after him. You know, you beat up his three friends. You know,
yeah.
and then
They've got it wrong. They basically got it the wrong way around.
yeah,
This should have
backwards.
either
Yeah,
come much later after
yeah,
Joy had really got to know Rio, or much earlier without Joy being involved.
yeah. Because Wong's the one who leads you to the Antin hotels. So
Yes.
yeah. So
Anyway, later that night, Rio is looking for a place to stay when two guys get talking to him. They use this as an opportunity to try to extort money out of him, which goes as well as expected. However, before they can fight, Joy rides in. And Joy reveals to Rio that, look, I know who stole your backpack. But basically, she's like, I ain't going to tell you who did it because, like, you seem dangerous and you might go and beat the kids up. Now, this is part of a thread in the show where basically Rio isn't going to do much fighting, especially compared to the way he fought in Shenmue 2. You notice this.
yeah,
She tells Rio about Wong's background, that he's an orphan, he's just doing what he needs in order to survive in a city full of thieves. Nobody just looks out for each other, and people just need to accept the raw deal when they get one. And I was like, well, that's a nice and positive message, but also, I'm Rio. That kid stole my shit. And she's like, oh yeah, well, he's just trying to survive. Fuck you, lady. So am I.
you know the biggest problem he had here was that in the game the Phoenix mirror was in the bag, so
Yeah.
that's why it was a bigger problem.
It needed to be got. Yeah, it needs to be
Yeah,
got.
yeah,
Here, it's a means to an end. It's a connection for Rio and Joy. But it could have still done that with the Phoenix Mirror lost. I don't
yeah,
really get
exactly.
it. Anyway, afterwards, Joy helps Rio find a place to stay, a hotel called a Come Over Guest House. That will give him a discount by mentioning Joy's name. He thanks Rio, and that's when they learn each other's name here. The next day, Rio returns to the park to continue to try to cover the ground with leaves. He's getting better at it, and Gentleman comes back impressed that Rio has not given up. It's all about Rio finding the fortitude to carry on. Now, they are going to do this in a clever way, twist this into the game, a specific thing in the game that I think is actually well done. But
Mhm.
later, Rio asks Joy to tell him where Wong is because he needs his backpack. Joy eventually agrees after Rio promises not to hurt him, and when Rio confronts Wong, he runs off in fear. We get a bit of a chase scene that is exactly like the QTE from the game. So the thing that happens at the start of the game is now here at this point in the show. So they basically take a lot of bit and mix them around.
Yeah, yeah.
Wong runs back to the three thugs from earlier, but they attack Rio, but they cannot hit him. Rio though just basically doesn't hurt him, implying that he could hurt them, and scares them of what he learns from Jinnamin, and he gets his backpack back. So yeah, this is the kind of no combat thing Rio is doing.
Yeah, I mean, I suppose it's growing his maturity that he's like he doesn't need to always turn to violence. Now he can use his skills.
Yeah, it's
So
about defense as much as attack, you know.
yeah, yeah, yeah,
And this allows them to go back to the tree and cover the ground with leaves, showing Jinnaman what he's learned. And it turns out that this is one of the four wood. Now, this is basically the big thing from Shenmue 2. And he's learned apparently Gon discipline, where you keep training every day without neglect. So I will describe each wound as we get to each one. Joy thanks Rio for not hurting any of the guys that robbed him, and she asks Rio why he came to Hong Kong. And Rio tells her, look, basically, I'm here to learn the truth about my father, Landy, all that stuff. Well, he doesn't say Landy, but basically, he kind of takes her words about the raw deal thing and turns them on his head, basically saying, like, I don't accept that.
yeah.
I really didn't like Joy in this show at this point. And what I didn't like was the fact that she keeps basically saying to Rio, Don't be mad. Don't be mad at people for robbing you.
Yeah, I mean, she's going to be a hard character because even in the game, she always turned up when you needed something. You know,
Oh yeah,
when you're
she's
lost.
a
Yeah,
convenient. She's a MacGuffin. She's a
yeah,
MacGuffin.
yeah.
What was weird in the game? What was weird was that she stood out in the world. So like she looked like a virtual fighter character, an American virtual fighter character. I mean, sexualized as well. Let's not pretend that's
Yeah,
not the case. But like she'd speaking like clear Mandarin, so obviously she'd lived in Hong Kong for a long time. Like she was always a bit of a weird character in the game, anyway. You know?
yeah. I mean, I was looking forward to obviously when they introduced Rain and stuff like that because he was a big character in this game. So
And when the episode ends with a final scene that actually plays over the credits, we see Rio returning to the temple, reciting the Wood Dagon to the monk from before, and declares that I'm going to visit this temple every day until Teo agrees to meet him. And I wanted Rio to do that in a more like pissy way. In the show, it sounds all honorable. I wanted to be like, oh, I'm going to annoy the piss out of you. I'm going to be here every day, and you ain't going to stop me. I wanted to be like that, basically. When asked why, Rio says it's to learn about Yando Zoo. And finally, here's Master Teo, revealing that the praying woman from earlier was who Rio was searching for. I know, who would have thunk it? But we get one last kind of... I know, right? But we get one last cutaway to see Wong speaking to someone about Rio. And this is Ren. Briefly seen in the scene. And that is episode number 6, Dignified, the first episode related to Shenmue 2. It's messy. But by the end, I think they managed to get enough info into it and set things up in motion in a different way that I was actually excited for what would come next. I was like, okay, this feels like we're gonna, because it was harder for them to deviate off the path of Shenmue 1. It kind of plays out in a fashion. Here, it looks like they're going to find ways to deviate and in potentially interesting ways. I was overall actually by the end of this going, yeah, okay, you did that in a good way.
Yeah. I mean, despite obviously what I was saying about the fact obviously they skip certain parts, and I thought with only 5 or 6 episodes left, they've got a lot of information to get through. So I can understand that they might have been thinking like, crap, we've only got like 6 episodes left. We have to try and fit all this in and cut this out. And
But by the end, I was even more. I was confident as well that anything that maybe I thought, well, why isn't that in there? That they could bring back. They were clearly maybe potentially going to bring it back in a different way. I don't know. It's pretty cool. It's a pretty cool start to sort of the Shenmue 2 storyline from the show's perspective. That is episode 6, Dignified. You got any thoughts on this one you want to share with us? You know what to do? Let us know in the comments. Thank you very much for watching. If you've enjoyed what you've seen, please consider hitting that like and subscribe button. It does help us out. You can find us at gbhbl.com and across all social media platforms. And if you really want to give us a bit of extra support, please consider buying us a cup of coffee over on our coffee page. Thank you.